So we're out of the wormhole and we cross this threshold point. And I'm going to talk about what this threshold was. And now we find ourselves on the 22nd of September, the equinox, the equal light, equal dark, sun in Libra at the cardinal 0 degrees, meaning a whole new cycle. I don't know about you, but I'm like, yes, I could use a whole new cycle. That was a deep cleaning. You know, like how you go to the dentist and they have to knock you out to do that scaling and planing, or you have a deep clean in your house because you moved. I'm not kidding. That's how the eclipse felt for me in this sign of Virgo, touching really so many areas of my life and doing it with such methodical precision. One of the things that happened was my passwords on all my accounts, where it was like the cache was cleared. I don't even know how that happened. I wake up, it's happening. And now I get to make new passwords. I get to clean up old things. It was really a forced cleanup. And that was happening also in some of my relationships, friendships. Really, it did a massive scrub down. So I'd love to hear for you. What happened? Put it in the comments. I'm just kind of interested in curating just our collective. What have we been through? And welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Kenlyn, and I love to do astrology and energy in terms of like consciousness, conscious leadership, how as we feminine leaders get to rise, and where do we get to lean in? Where do we get to let go and surrender? That's how I use astrology. It's really powerful. And we're in this moment of an air grand trine. And that air grand trine is going to create some beautiful flow. And we'll get to an all signs on the air grand trine. I like to read rising signs using the whole sign astrology. You can also apply your sun sign, but it works most perfectly with your rising sign because your rising sign is in the first house, and that sets the whole zodiac wheel counterclockwise. So let's say a couple things about that threshold first. And let's also present the bigger picture. I love meta pictures. Like if I can keep a big view of something, then I'm less likely to be irritated in the details when I'm in the weeds of something. And so the big picture is the last few years, I would say even the last 2 years, we have been in a massive upgrade. Do you feel that? It doesn't mean that stuff doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that it's hard. In fact, it does mean that it's hard. It's the challenge, it's the oppositions and the squares that produce the maturity. That you really have to dig deep in order to have what you want, in order to move forward. And life forces it. Relationships just don't work anymore, or selling yourself out just doesn't work anymore, or people pleasing just doesn't work anymore. I'm hearing that more and more as I do these genius mapping sessions. And I'll tell you more about that later, because if you got your name on that, you will definitely want to come see me. So I'll just say that the last 2 years have been huge, huge change, huge growth. You are not the same person that you were 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, and then look back 5 years ago at 2020 when all of this started. So we're in this cycle and it's starting to gain some momentum. Remember that the Gene Keys has always said that in 2027 starts this new cycle. What is the new cycle? Well, we move from the shadow frequency to the gift frequency. There are 3 frequencies: shadow, gift, and the ultimate, like enlightenment frequency of the codes that we carry. There's 64 of them, and we each have a couple handfuls of these codes in different sequences that tell us what our purpose is, our emotions, our early childhood, our core wound. All of the things are revealed through the Gene Keys. And I love that Gene Keys. It's based on human design. And I use this in my work. So I've been thinking a lot about it because I've been looking at people's charts. And it's just so crazy, some of the symmetry and some of the things that people come to me for. And I love the ability to work it out. I guess I'll talk about it now since I am already talking about it. But what I'm doing, and I've had a few YouTubers come, and it's so cool to meet some of you from all walks of life. You don't have to have it together. In fact, this is a great thing to do when you're at a threshold. And we are at a cosmic threshold right now. And that threshold could be that you're a Saturn return. I've met a few people in their nodal return. And then there's Chiron return. I haven't met anyone yet in their Chiron return because I'm a little bit older than that now. But look, if you're 49, 50, 51, you want to get in here and talk to me about what's happening for you. And so we do a mapping of your unique genius using those tools, but then I put together an action plan. So I have to admit that the first part of the session is like a fire hose and people are like blown away. But really where it all comes together and where I notice the energy just get calm, nervous systems focused in is when we do the action plan. And that really engages my Saturn. It engages my gene key 11, which is the strategist, the idea factory. So it's really been a beautiful process. And if you're feeling called to make a deep dive and invest in yourself, then I'll put the link in the description. And if you just want a taste of my work and the cycles that I look at, there's a masterclass called the Reinvention Code, 4 keys to 10x your life in the Uranus and Gemini era. So we're going to talk a little bit about Uranus and Gemini. We're going to talk about Pluto and Aquarius. Both are retrograde right now, and the sun that make up this grand air trine. So let's get on with it. Okay, holy whatever, Batman. That new moon solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse, happened at 29 degrees of Virgo. So remember, the first new moon was at 0 degrees Virgo. And then we have this 29 degrees Virgo new moon. So we really have been deeply inside of the Virgo mansion. And we had a lunar full moon eclipse opposite, so in Pisces, shining light on this area. And wherever this is in your chart, so wherever your rising sign is in the first house, you go counterclockwise through the zodiac and you'll find Virgo. And just take a look at how you've been worked. And we did all signs last week. We're going to do all signs this week, but this time we're not focusing on Virgo. We're going to focus on Libra. And this is beautiful because Venus, right now she's in Virgo. She doesn't love it here. So she's going to be a little bitchy and a little nitpicky, but it's part of the process. She has to do it because there's still cleanup. In order to really take advantage of this flow, you got to clean the gunk out of the pipes so that we can get to the flow. Now, she will move into Libra. That's her next destination. And when she does so, that's a reboot in our relationships. We're going to be talking about relationships because so many relationships right now are changing. So you know how I presenced that 2 years ago, I'm just looking randomly at 2 years, but you don't even have the same friends that you had from 2 years ago. Like I have friends from a long time ago, but like close circle of friends. Why? Because everybody is evolving at different paces and they're evolving in different ways. They're discovering more of who they are. And maybe your relationship was based on parts of yourself that have died and that are no longer there, or that you see now as conditioning, and that you're undoing that conditioning. Maybe you've evolved in worldview. I don't really talk about that much here. I mention it and I say that worldview is included and transcended, meaning that you can't say, oh, you have a lower worldview because you used to have that too. It's a growth path. But if you don't really know what the next worldview looks like, then most of us defend where we are. And that stuff's over. We're not here to defend our own ignorance. Write that down. We are not here to defend our ignorance. We are here to grow. We are here to change. I hope to God in a year from now, I have totally different opinions and thoughts than I do right now, because that would mean that I'm wiser and that I'm growing. All right. So here's what's happened. At 29 degrees, it worked us. It was the end of that Virgo piece. And it was a new moon for sure. So we have new intentions, but it was conjunct the South Node. So that means that a lot of karmic stuff was coming up to be revealed, to let go, to say goodbye. That was our threshold. The 29 degrees Virgo was our threshold point. And so if you did it, I just want to celebrate you for a moment, because I know some people, I've been listening to stories and it's been hard, really seriously challenged. And I've also witnessed that those same people came through with flying colors. They didn't lose their shit. They walked the paces. They made some hard calls. They were standing in the middle of chaos. And so there's something to be acknowledged about that threshold. Now, that cleaning through, remember I was talking about circling the drain. It was circling the drain. Now what is happening is that the sun moved into Libra, giving us a break here. The moon keeps going, right? The moon is moving faster than anybody. So the sun moves into Libra, and at 0 degrees kicks off a brand new cycle. So who else is at 0 degrees? But well, let's talk about the opposition first. First, the sun opposes Neptune. So Neptune's in Aries, retrograde at 0 degrees. He's moving slower than Saturn, who's already in Pisces. Neptune will join. But right now, Neptune is just there, slow in Aries, opposite the sun in Libra. So really what we're talking about is confronting our own illusions, confronting our own idealization patterns. Where have we been believing something that we now know, maybe because of that Virgo working you hard, is no longer true? Where have you stuck your head in the sand, or where have you put your power outside you, like idealized someone else? Like that person is on a pedestal, or maybe you self-idealize. You tell yourself a story about, oh, I channel the archangels and I'm so amazing. My work is so amazing. Okay, yeah, maybe it is. And this is the counterpoint to that, right? We live in duality. So there's always a way where we can say, yes, our work is amazing. And we can all, and there's another way where we can also call bullshit on some things that we say, like maybe you're self-idealizing. Maybe you're in what's called subjectification and you think you know and no one else knows. That's what this Neptune is going to highlight for you. And so some humility will be a very good practice, not to take you down and say, oh yeah, you really were nothing. That's not the point. It's to actually mature you. It's to mature me. It's to allow us the equanimity to walk the path, because we're not self-idealizing. We have a pretty clear vision and picture of what we do really well. Like these genius mapping sessions, I'm in my genius. I'm doing it really well. But I come to it also with a lot of humility, knowing I don't know your life. I'm just getting a snapshot, and here's what's coming through. Does that resonate? And some have said, you hold this space with no judgment, because I truly have no judgment. That's because I have seen my own shadow. I have walked into the depths. I have done so many things messed up, made a lot of mistakes along the way. I'm a sixth line. That's what we do. So by this point, by this second Saturn return, there's a maturity, there's a humility. That's where we really want to go. And life will humble you if you're not really ready. If you can't do that for yourself, life will do it for you. So that's the opposition that's happening. Let's see what else is happening. I'm going to check my notes, because we've got some big movements. So when we crossed that threshold, we had this final exam, and then we entered this new phase. We have Virgo's practical energy, getting shit done, cleaning things up, scouring. We had Venus in Virgo, who was like on it. We had Mars at the 29-degree point, also of Libra, but then on the 22nd moves into Scorpio. So he's at the very beginning of Scorpio, and he is also squaring Pluto. Mars squaring Pluto, retrograde in Aquarius. Remember that whole Mars-Pluto thing? That can bring up, at this point, at this threshold crossing, there could be some anger. There could be some explosiveness. This actually makes me more worried about the world scene rather than the individual scene. But just know, Mars is in his home territory of Scorpio, but just know to watch your temper. Okay, and then we have Mercury in Libra, very diplomatic placement. That's going to help us end old agreements. So that's really what I want to say about that Virgo crossing, threshold crossing. It's the spiritual maturity test, taking responsibility of what you've called in, what you've manifested in 3D so far, not with a critical judgmental eye that you're bad, but with this neutral, okay, what worked, what didn't work, where am I out of alignment, where am I out of integrity, and how can I course correct? So simple. There also could be some grief in this. I know people who are letting go of relationships that were once very meaningful for them. And it's just a matter of that worldview, of outgrowing, of discovering some things that happen in the relationship that are just not working for the people anymore. So this is a time of reckoning. This is a new opening. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to get into, I'm going to fast forward through the sun opposing Neptune and Aries. I think I talked about that. And we're going to fast forward to this grand trine. This is where the energy is flowing. It's a powerful movement of air energy. So it will have mental ideas, but it will also have action alongside of it. So we have the sun. After it's that equinox point, it moves to that 1 degree point. And then we have Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 1 degree and Uranus retrograde in Gemini at 1 degree. All three planets are air signs, which is kind of, as I said, mental, but also because it's a trine, they're working benefically with each other. So you can look at where's Gemini, where is Aquarius, and where's Libra in your chart. And you can start to see what the energetics are, like the areas of your life the energetics are hitting. And we're going to do that in all signs. So that's mental breakthrough energy, something that you were stuck on that you needed to now have a breakthrough in order to move forward. Hallelujah. We need it. We've been in Virgo, earth energy, and then Pisces, water energy. And now we've got movement. Just feel that movement. So after months of Mars and Mercury in Libra preparing the ground, the sun activates this powerful configuration. So Mercury's still there. Mars is moving on to his home place of Scorpio. And the ground has been prepared for us to step into something new. So that means that we're going to experience kind of a flow after struggle. Things that have felt stuck will start to move. Communication breakthroughs, maybe willingness to discuss new things where maybe there was an impasse before. Mercury in Libra brings the diplomatic piece. And then relational transformation, shifting dynamics with people in your life, because Libra is the mansion of the other. Like, this is the scale, this is the justice. Aries is the I am, and its opposite, Libra, is we are. So now we're in the realm of affecting our relationships. And then Uranus is bringing new ideas, innovations. He's going to retrograde back into Taurus to revisit some of the territory of what got reinvented. Are you on that plan still? Are you following that? Anything else that needs to happen? And then moving. Finally, he'll move direct back into Gemini. But right now he's retrograde in Gemini. So this is how that trine is working. And then we have this call to find our soul tribe. I think that's what this Pluto in Aquarius is bringing forth. At least that's what makes sense to me right now as I witness what's happening in the zeitgeist, as people are closing out old relationships. Even communities are closing right now. Online communities, they're shifting and they're changing. People are changing the nature of their work. So that's opening us up to meeting entirely new people. I just saw this thing online called Kin Weekly, KIN weekly.com. You should check it out and see if there's one in your area. I've never been. It costs like $20 to go to a coffee on Sunday morning with people you don't know. How cool is that? If you feel called, I think they're in major cities right now and they're just rolling out, it seems like. But what an incredible social experiment to do when you're in this new threshold moment. You've crossed over, you're open for new friends. It's time to find new work associations, new friend groups, new interests. So I just put that out there. You might see me at one of them. So Pluto in Aquarius is connecting you to social networks and friendships and communities. And really, after the 2 years that we've been through, we are different people. We are a more authentic version of ourselves, which of course is a never-ending process. And you're opening to new soul allies and new community connections. So there's a magnetism, I think, in all of this air trine energy that's going to draw new people toward you. I don't know, that feels really right to me and really good to me. That's my interpretation of this air trine. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, yeah, let me talk about Uranus and Gemini. And I have done this in my master class, so I'm not going to go fully into it. You can jump on and get the master class. It's only $22 and it's in the description box and you get it right away when you sign up. I go through the cycles. I talk about the big cycle of change that we're in right now, how long it's going to last. And then I pair it up with this Uranus and Gemini, which just happens to completely track. And then we go into the codes of reinvention for yourself. We look at some of the Hindu philosophy of Artha, Dharma, Moksha, and Kama. I don't know if you know those terms, but those are terms in Vedic astrology and in Hinduism about your purpose, your money, your desires, your relationship, and your soul liberation. And then we go into how to find Gemini in your own chart and what that could mean for you, as well as the 4 codes that I use personally in my own reboot after this second Saturn return. These came to me and I love them as touchstones for how to live like truly the most expressed version of yourself in this lifetime. All that's packed into 41 minutes inside that masterclass. So I'm not going to go through a whole bunch of it, but I'll just say that Uranus and Gemini will bring unexpected insights. You know, Uranus's pulse of insights. So you could have like a light body activation and then it's gone and you're back to being yourself. It's not like a sustained awakening. That's not how Uranus works. Uranus is the planet of upheaval and disruption and liberation and change. And then you pair that with Gemini and we've got change in our communication. What I say in this masterclass is that the nervous system of the planet is becoming one. So fascinating. All right, that's all I want to say for now. Let's get into the rising signs. Where can we see this grand trine show up in your chart? Are you ready? So let's start with Aries. Aries rising, you got worked in your 6th house. That was Virgo scrubbing and cleaning house in your 6th house of work, of pets, of debts, of your service, of your freaking health. It was big. So what threshold crossing, what did you have to let go of in order to step into a fresh start with respect to your partnerships? That's business and romantic partnerships. Maybe there's something about a new flow, a new open. What are you open and willing to receive? Write that down. I am open and willing to receive, and put something in there around your partnerships. You know, maybe it was that your workaholism had to go. Or maybe it was that you weren't feeling very well. Something had to cross from one state to another, and it opens up a new experience in your 7th house. And it connects with the trine to Pluto and a trine to Uranus, supporting in the energy and movement of something that was previously stuck in your 7th house. Sounds interesting? Let me know. Okay, Taurus rising. I know this one because it's mine. 5th house, we got worked. It was a gauntlet. That's the house of romance, of children, of, I was going to say gambling. I don't gamble, but yeah, it's the house of gambling, of self-expression and joy, of pleasure, of entrepreneurial ventures. Yeah, somewhere you got worked. Something had to be released and let go in order to cross over a threshold. And then what? Now what opens up? I'll share with me, it's in the 6th house, right? Libra is in the 6th house. So that's what's opening up with the movement of the sun and eventually Venus and Mercury in Libra. And for me, it's health. So when there's not the stress of either a disorganized business, like I was sharing earlier about all the things that got to get organized, or on that long journey of closing out my entrepreneurial ventures, the stress has finally left. And so now I'm rebooting my health. I've been using these peptides. They're not synthetic peptides, they're natural peptides. A gal, Mimi, got me on them. And I'm now starting to feel them energizing my body, leaning my body. So I really fully expect a health reboot as the sun moves into Libra. Yay. So tell me yours, because this is really daily work. This is your health. This is your pet. This is maybe resolution of debts. It becomes more of a beautiful expression of values and of joy. Maybe something in the 5th house, joy, got liberated in order to move into a daily work routine. that feels more joyful, more authentic, more connected. Now, remember, we're talking about Libra, and Libra is the scales. Libra is this balance. So in all of these transmissions, we're really dealing with what's being balanced out. What are you open and willing to receive to create more balance in your life? Gemini rising, your fourth house. You've been worked in your fourth house. Now, I know a Gemini rising who hasn't been home a lot. She's been traveling. Really great news, because opposite the fourth is the 10th. Her career is lighting up. It's taken her out of the house. She likes to be at home. It's beautiful. I'm in her house now. And her husband has a job somewhere else. So part of her crucible has been having to live without her husband in her home 24/7 and out without her in her home 24/7. So that can open up to the fifth house of a fresh start. And she is a Libra, so I'm expecting it's going to be super beautiful. But what about that fifth house, fresh start? So maybe there's something in that threshold crossing of really making peace with what's so, with that travel or with that absence. And then something in the fifth house, which is romance, can get lit up. Maybe it sparks a new level of romance in the relationship because of the absence and the attitude shift after getting super worked during that Virgo eclipse season. You know, this is the house of authentic expression and joy. So really claim it. Are you open and willing to receive more joy? Of course, yes. Okay, Cancer rising, you got worked in the third house and you're poised for a refresh in the fourth house. So let's look at the third house for a minute. It's kind of like the junk drawer of the zodiac. It's got relations with your families other than your mom and dad, like siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, neighbors, or like local stores. It also rules skilled-based education or social media. Like, aren't we all worked in social media right about now? Yikes. Website design, things like that. Communication. Something was worked, maybe in your communication, that now opens up more harmony. What are you open and willing to receive in your home? Maybe it's more harmony. Maybe someone left who was driving you nuts, and you now can create the sacred space that you've wanted inside your home. Maybe it's a new family dynamic, even with much more emotional equilibrium, because again, we're talking about Libra as the scales of justice, the weight. Are things equal? Are things in balance, like the equinox? Let me know. Okay, Leo rising, your crucible was in your second house. That's resources. That's money that you earn. That could also be your self-esteem, your self-worth. And something got worked in there. Maybe there was some self-worth issues, maybe some scarcity programming that you really worked through that opens up a fresh start in your third house. Now, your third house could be that you are moving. It could be your communication. It could be your neighbors, your neighborhood, or your online business. You know, there's a lot that it could be. But what are you open and willing to receive? Maybe a deeper sense of belonging, maybe with you having worked through that scarcity, that there's a sense of empowerment that's coming on, and maybe you want to share that and communicate that through writing an article or making a video, or it just relieves your beingness of the pressure that you've been going through, and it opens you to more intimacy with your friends and neighbors and your family. So let us know what happened in that crucible. Virgo rising, all the action was in your first house. That was your sense of yourself, your actual body, who you be in this lifetime, the role, the earth school that you signed up for. And so something had to give. You had to cross a threshold crossing. And now, what are you open and willing to receive with respect to your money, with respect to your value and self-worth? So maybe there was an old version of yourself that had to die, and it served its purpose. And maybe now that new version of you can actually envision new income streams, because you're now no longer playing on an old playing field. You're looking at a new playing field for yourself, and that has different possibilities. And again, maybe there's a balance in here that we're sensing with the Libra mansion. What is coming more into balance for you in this second house? Maybe it is your value that you've been seen and appreciated, and you are seen as someone who has certain authentic gifts that you're contributing. They're more visible and available now. Let us know. Okay, Libra rising, 12th house eclipse. That's the house of your dreams and the unconscious, lots of stuff, ancestors, lots of things that you may not even be aware of that were getting worked. But think about that unconscious getting super worked so that what? It moves right into the first house. There's a threshold crossing into the first house. It comes into the I am, the expression of you. So what are you open and willing to receive? Maybe more balance in some area of your life. Maybe it is balance in even the desire for solitude. You're now desiring to be around people. It could be as simple as that. Or stop giving away your power, self-sabotaging ways of being that you have transformed. And so now your authentic expression is more available, which creates a more integrated, maybe balanced, but integrated sense of self. And so that you could actually magnetically draw to you that which you need. And are you open and willing to receive that? I love it. Let us know. That's a big identity one right there. Scorpio rising, you had the eclipses in your 11th house. You were worked there because that's the house of Virgo for you. And so what was completing with your friendships? That's big. That's big. Some group involvement, some obligation, some social circle. You had to cross a threshold. And I know some Scorpios who did have to cross this threshold, even Scorpio suns. So you've completed something in your service. You've completed something in your work with your friends. And there is a grief. There is a grief with that the old is complete. And what you shared was beautiful and valuable, even if it had its rough edges. But now your evolution is aligning somewhere else. And so that 12th house is getting lit up. And really, that's your deeper connection to the divine, to God, goddess, to source. Are you open and willing to receive spiritual guidance, divine insights? That's all part of the unconscious. Maybe dreams that show you where you're at and where you're going. It's really pretty beautiful. It's very internal. And I just honor that threshold crossing that you had to go through. Let us know what it was for you. All right, Sag rising, you were worked in your 10th house. You were worked in your career in some way, shape, or form, or your status. It's how people perceive you in the public. And now the benefit rolls to the 11th house. Hallelujah. The 11th house is like money earned from the 10th. It's the hopes and dreams. It's pennies from heaven. It's your circle, your community, your friends. So what really had to go? What did you reckon with respect to your career? What was the threshold crossing in your career? Did your career path serve its purpose and it's complete now? Did you have to stop maintaining an image? Like when I'm doing these genius mapping sessions, so many people are telling me that these spiritual gifts are coming online and it's not reconciling with where they're working. And so I'm here to support the integration of the both and, because not everyone's going to make a living, off of the spiritual arts. We're in the world. So how do we do that while maintaining a level of authenticity? One woman I spoke to today, we were both just saying that in the last couple of years, and I actually spoke between these video clips, that things have changed. More and more people, like-minded spiritual people, are found in all these nooks and crannies. So that could be something for you in the 10th house, moving to the 11th house. Maybe it's that you're really going to find your soul tribe. That would be so beautiful. Your sense of belonging, the people who really, really get you. Also working with a lot of projectors. And when you're not seen, it is like death. So you got to get yourself into a place where you're invited and seen. So maybe your future vision, because this is your future hopes and dreams, is coming more into focus. Like you see that what you're doing is not it. And that's especially true of a lot of medical related jobs where like people are like, there's more healing modalities than that. Yes, they're not proven. And the reason why is because no one's going to make money off of proving them. But I want to incorporate them because a person is not just a body, they're also a soul, they're also a spirit. And that's the way it's going, and it's going through us. So maybe that was the crucible that you had to go through, the threshold. And so now, are you open and willing to receive your soul tribe? Are you open and willing to receive work that's highly compensated, that is the both and for you? I love that so much. Let us know. All right, Capricorn rising, ninth house eclipse. That's your house of God. That's higher education, foreign travel. It's your Dharma. Like, was your Dharma just worked? Like your purpose, is it shifted and changed? And guess what? You are up for a 10th house refresh. Gotta love that. The sun, Venus, Mercury, all coming into the place where it loves to be, the home of Libra. And so what's completing is, maybe your belief system, your educational path, your soul path, even. Yeah, that's intense. But something is going to open up. And I know this is very true for 2 Cap risings that I know, that new career opportunities are totally opening up for them. And what had to go was that their Dharma shifted. And I was witness to the Dharma shifting. And I was witness to, when that happens, it is not linear and messy. It feels so disoriented, like you're lost and whatever. And then something new comes through, some little thread comes through, and you got to work it. And then, boom. And so are you open and willing to receive your new career that's waiting for you? I love that so much. Your new opportunity that allows you to be in full, harmony and balance with what you're here to bring through, what you're here to even receive. Let us know. Okay, Aquarius rising, 8th house eclipse. Not like eclipses to me are 8th house events. They're death and rebirth events. So you're really poised with that level of transformation and death and rebirth. You're really poised for a new experience of God Goddess in the 9th house. That's the house of God. Like you just died. Maybe you went through some kind of a catharsis around the mystery, your beliefs, and now you're on new footing. And are you open and willing to receive a new relationship with God? That's so beautiful. Or we could say like a new philosophy, a new axis mundi, the thing that like orients your life, the compass through which you move and have your being. I mean, it's tectonic. That's big. It was a big eclipse. And are you open and willing to receive something new, a new perspective, a new shift? Are you open and willing to receive a new wisdom that expands through maybe even collaboration? Because Libra is going to be collaborative. It's other people. It's not isolated. Maybe it's teaching. Maybe it's going to open you up to a world of teaching. Let us know. All right, let's end with this. Pisces rising. You had a 7th house eclipse, and it's poising you for something new in the 8th house. So 7th house we know is partnerships, business, or romantic. So what in your partnership dynamic was on the gauntlet? What was the crucible for you? What way of even relating are you complete with? So what threshold crossing did you have to go through? Maybe, it's as subtle as the role that you agreed to. Some people are married for many, many years, and they agreed when they got married, they took on a role that now they're still living, and they're just like, wait, what? That role is not who I am right now. So it shifts the partnership dynamic. And maybe that shift is creating it to be more equitable, more equal for both the parties, even though one party who isn't used to something is going to do something that they weren't used to, maybe emotional caretaking, and maybe some of that has been withdrawn, or maybe some of that's been shifted. when we go through these cycles of life and we hit these Saturn returns and these Chiron returns and Uranus returns, we just become wiser and less willing to be codependent. So maybe it's a codependent pattern. And that 8th house Libra is really, are you open and willing to receive the deep transformation that's here? Maybe you already did, but maybe it's through, like, the 8th house is the house of other people's money, so it's like maybe there's some exchange with others that now you're open and willing to receive because something in you has shifted. So shared resources, intimate connections, because it's also the house of sex, become sources of mutual empowerment and grace. I love leaving on that line, mutual empowerment and grace. All right, that's all signs. So let's gather all the positive energy that we have generated and this new, fresh energy that we are declaring that we are stepping into. Allowing the flow, feeling the flow of energy from the sun to Pluto and Uranus, creating this vortex of movement. And let's gather all of that and let's dedicate it. May all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts.